All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to draw a roadmap to the major works of Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher who pretty much took the rulebook and set it on fire. So, let's kick things off with something you might not expect. Nietzsche was his own biggest and harshest critic. I mean, look at this quote. It's from him talking about his own first book. This kind of self-awareness is absolutely key, because to really get Nietzsche, you have to understand that he was always evolving, always questioning his own ideas. Now, before you just dive into his books, you really got to understand his style. Because unlike almost every other major philosopher, Nietzsche doesn't lay out his arguments in neat, clean steps. No, he had something way more provocative in mind. And this right here, this is the key to his whole method. You see, Nietzsche thought that systematic philosophy, the kind that tries to give you a perfect, complete system for everything, was just plain dishonest. He thought the world was way too messy for that. So instead, he uses these aphorisms, these short, sharp, little explosions of insight, to hand you problems, not answers. He's forcing you, the reader, to actually do the hard work of thinking. Okay, so his career gets going in 1872, and man, does it start with a bang. His first book was so radical it just completely blew up the academic world, championed his hero at the time, Richard Wagner, and yeah, it ended a pretty major friendship. So in his very first book, he basically just tossed the traditional rulebook out the window. Instead of dry scholarship, he introduces this core idea, this cosmic tug of war between two artistic forces that he believed created the greatest art form in history, Greek tragedy. And this just lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you've got the Apollonian. Think of it like the drive for order, for beautiful dreams, for things that give life shape and meaning. And on the other hand, you have the Dionysian, that raw, terrifying, chaotic, passionate reality that kind of threatens to swallow you whole. For Nietzsche, the magic of Greek tragedy was that it perfectly balanced these two forces. And yeah, this whole approach, it was just way too much for the academic world. His colleagues were absolutely horrified by how unscholarly it all was. A single, brutal review basically nuked his academic career right from the start. Then, just a few years later, he does a complete 180. He ditches that grand, sweeping style of his first book for something totally different. Cool, sharp, analytical. This new book was all about applying psychological suspicion to everything. It was a total rejection of romanticism, and, well, it was the final nail in the coffin for his friendship with Wagner. So now that he's broken from his past and really found his own voice, Nietzsche enters his middle period. And this is where he drops the explosive ideas that would make him both infamous and immortal. And this book, The Gay Science, which really translates to something more like The Joyful Science, is one of his absolute most important works. This is where he unleashes the philosophical bombshells he's most known for. He doesn't just state it as a fact, he poses it as this absolutely terrifying question. I mean, think about it. For 2,000 years, God had been the bedrock of Western civilization's meaning, its values, its morals. Nietzsche asks the big one, what happens when that bedrock just crumbles? And this is so, so important to get. This famous line, it wasn't him cheering. Not at all. It was a profound warning. It actually comes from a story about a madman who's terrified by what this means. For Nietzsche, the death of God meant that humanity was now set adrift in a meaningless universe, facing the massive threat of nihilism. So what does he do next? He takes these huge, world-shaking ideas and turns them into what he thought was his masterpiece. Thus Spoke Zarathustra isn't really a normal philosophy book. It's more like this strange, poetic, almost biblical-style epic. It's about a prophet who comes down from a mountain to teach humanity about the overman, this new kind of human who can create their own meaning and values now that God is dead. Okay, so in his later work, Nietzsche shifts gears. He moves away from that prophetic poetry and launches this direct, systematic, and honestly devastating assault on the history of morality itself. In these two amazing books, he basically becomes a detective, a genealogist of morality. He asks, hey, all those things you think are just good, where did that idea even come from? He argued it's not some timeless truth. Nope. He claimed it was an invention with a very specific history and a pretty suspicious purpose. And this table here, it really breaks down his super radical argument.
First, you have master morality. This is created by the powerful, the nobles who look at themselves, their strength, their pride, and say, yep, this is good. It's all about saying yes to life. But then, he says, you have slave morality, which is created by the weak, the oppressed. It's born from what he called ressentiment, this bitter, simmering resentment. And what it does is it flips everything upside down. It calls the master's strength evil and its own weakness good.
All right, now we get to the end. Nietzsche's career goes out not with a whimper, but with this incredible, almost superhuman bang in 1888. But this period is followed by a tragic mental collapse, and more importantly for us, a huge warning for anyone who reads his work. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's insane. In his last year of sanity, Nietzsche churns out 4 complete books in just a few months. It's this unbelievable explosion of creativity where he tries to summarize his entire life's work, with chapters titled things like Why I Am So Wise and Why I Write Such Good Books. It's a creative burst that is just wow. It's unlike anything else. But after he had his mental collapse in early 1889, one of his most famous books came out. And you have to be so careful with this one, because it is not what it appears to be. Okay, this is absolutely crucial to understand. The Will to Power is not Nietzsche's book. It's a fake. It was cobbled together after his death from his unpublished notebooks by his sister Elizabeth. She cherry-picked notes, rearranged them, and even changed them to fit her own nasty political ideology. For decades, this fabricated book completely twisted the public's understanding of his philosophy. And that really gets to the core of what it's like to read Nietzsche. You know, he doesn't want you to just sit back and passively accept his ideas. His whole style, all those aphorisms and provocations, it's designed to make you wrestle with the ideas, to make you challenge your own beliefs, and to get you thinking for yourself. And really, that's why he's still so powerful today. He demands that you engage with him, that you struggle with the text, that you think. Reading Nietzsche doesn't leave you with a nice, tidy pile of answers. No way. It leaves you with a brand new set of powerful and, frankly, difficult questions. So the only real question left is, which one are you going to tackle first?